Ever wonder how a book from 1937 stays relevant for so long?
Yeah, it's really something.
That's what we're diving into today.
Okay.
How to win friends and influence people.
Right.
I mean, you've probably heard of it.
Sure.
Maybe even skimmed it, but of course, we're going deeper here beyond the surface.
That's good.
So what's remarkable about this book is how
it's interesting
Carnegie,
how he tapped into something, timeless.
It's true.
He didn't even set out to write like a self-help classic.
Right.
Imagine this. He's teaching public speaking.
Yeah.
And he realizes that people are way more tripped up about dealing with each other than they are about the actual talking part.
It's true, right?
Yeah.
It makes you think maybe
being a good speaker is less about eloquence and more about just connecting on a human level.
Yeah, for sure.
And so we're trying to do that with this deep dive.
Yeah.
We're extracting these nuggets of wisdom from this book.
I like it.
The stuff that'll actually make a difference in your life.
And what's key here is the psychology behind it, right? Like, take the first principle,
Okay.
become genuinely interested in others.
Okay.
Carnegie uses this example of Howard Thurston, a famous magician.
Yeah.
And you'd think Thurston would credit, his illusions, his tricks.
Of course.
But he swore his real success was how he treated his audience.
Wow.
Like they were real people.
Not just some faceless crowd there to be tricked.
Exactly.
Yeah. And it reminds me of that story of Edward Chalif, who needed funds for a Boy Scout trip.
Right.
And so instead of, directly asking this potential donor for money, he sparked up a conversation about this donor's prized possession.
Yeah.
A framed $1 million check.
Wow.
And by tapping into that fascination, Chalif ended up getting way more support than he ever imagined.
Oh, I was almost like playing mental chess.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
It's understanding that everyone deep down wants to feel, interesting, seen.
Absolutely. Everyone wants to feel important, valued, right.
Yeah.
And showing genuine interest. That's the key.
Okay.
That's how you unlock that connection.
Yeah.
But it's not enough to just act interested, right?
Right.
Carnegie's next principle is all about that outward signal.
Okay.
A simple smile. He even compares us to dogs in this, which I find hilarious.
Right.
But also kind of true.
Yeah, I know. We love dogs because they're always so psyched to see us.
Right.
Their enthusiasm, it's infectious.
It really is.
There's a real psychological depth to it.
Okay.
A genuine smile signals warmth, acceptance.
Right.
It disarms people. It makes them more open. Think about that classic image.
Yeah.
A baby smiling at a grumpy stranger.
Oh, yeah.
In the doctor's office.
Right.
Completely changes the mood,
It's amazing how such a simple act can have these ripple effects outward.
Yeah, for sure.
And speaking of little things that make a big difference, remembering names sounds basic.
Totally.
But Carnegie tells this amazing story about a salesman, Sid Levy, and he goes out of his way to remember this guy's name, Nicodemus Papadopoulos.
Wow.
And when he addresses his customer by his full name,
what happens?
The customer was moved to tears.
Wow.
15 years, no one had bothered to get his name right.
It highlights this universal truth.
Right.
We crave to be seen, to be acknowledged, to be treated as an individual.
It's so powerful.
Carnegie even points out that, Franklin D. Roosevelt.
Oh, wow.
Busy guy, right?
Yeah.
President of the United States.
Right.
Made it a point to remember names.
Wow.
If he can do it, we all can.
That's amazing. And it just shows you that even powerful people, they crave that personal touch.
Totally.
Okay. Principle number 4, be a good listener.
Classic.
Carnegie talks about being stuck at a bridge party, bored out of his mind because he didn't play bridge.
Right.
But instead of trying to, impress the other non-player, he just listens to her, asks questions about her experiences, her stories, and she walks away thinking he's this brilliant conversationalist.
Because he listened. See, most people, they're just waiting for their turn to talk.
That's so true.
But when you actually listen, you're giving this rare and valuable gift, right?
Totally. Yeah. It's true. We all have that inner narcissist that wants to be the center of attention.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
And speaking of attention, principle number 5 is about directing it outward.
Okay.
Talk in terms of the other person's interests.
Love it.
He contrasts this with a real estate agent who totally strikes out by focusing on his own agenda. Right?
Pretty interesting.
Then there's this salesman, Edward Vermeulen, who lands his dream job by focusing on what the company needed, not just what he wanted.
It's that subtle shift from self-promotion to problem-solving.
Exactly. And it makes you think about that bakery owner, right?
Oh, yeah.
Spent 4 years trying to win over this client.
Right, right.
Finally discovers the client's obsessed with the hotel greeters of America.
Yeah.
Strikes up a conversation about that. Bingo. Lands the deal.
It's like magic.
Right.
Finding that common ground.
Exactly.
Finally, principle number 6. Make the other person feel important.
Yes.
Carnegie uses this really simple example of a post office clerk whose day is brightened by a genuine compliment.
This goes back to that fundamental human need.
Right.
Remember John Dewey's words, the desire to be important is the deepest urge in human nature.
Wow.
William James called it the craving to be appreciated.
And it's not always about these grand gestures, right?
No.
It's those small daily acts of kindness, saying please and thank you.
Of course, yeah.
Acknowledging someone's efforts, treating them with respect.
Absolutely.
Even something as simple as remembering someone's favorite coffee order.
Yes. Those little things add up.
They really, really do.
And Carnegie, he illustrates this beautifully.
Yeah.
With this story of his own aunt, who's feeling so unappreciated.
Oh, no.
That she ends up giving her prized Packard car.
Wow.
To a nephew who had simply shown her genuine kindness and attention.
It's a poignant reminder that sometimes those smallest acts of kindness can have the biggest impact.
Absolutely.
But what happens when you need to navigate differing opinions?
Right.
That's where Carnegie's next set of principles comes into play.
Absolutely. Yeah. Focused on winning people to your way of thinking.
Okay.
And it all starts with, a dose of humility. Avoid arguments. Carnegie tells this great anecdote about a dinner party.
Okay.
Where he got into this heated debate about a Shakespeare quote.
Oh, no!
Right. And even though he was technically right,
okay,
he later realized, man, I alienated that guy.
Yeah.
Damaged the connection.
You can be right, or you can be happy.
Exactly.
It's like that story of Patrick J. O'Hare, the salesman, who turns his career around by praising his competitors instead of trash-talking them.
Oh, wow. Power move.
Total power move.
That disarms people.
Yeah, it shows such a deep understanding of human psychology.
100%.
We attack someone's opinions.
Yeah.
We trigger their defenses.
Right.
But when we show respect, even admiration,
it opens the door.
You open the door.
It's like Carnegie says, if you are going to prove anything, don't let anybody know it.
Interesting.
Subtle guidance.
Not force.
Exactly.
You catch more flies with honey than vinegar. Right.
Speaking of honey.
Okay.
Carnegie uses this powerful historical analogy.
Okay.
To illustrate his third principle.
Okay.
Admit faults quickly. Emphatically.
Okay.
Think. General Robert E. Lee at Gettysburg.
Okay.
After Pickett's charge failed, Lee takes full responsibility.
Powerful.
Yeah.
Even though multiple factors contribute.
Multiple factors, absolutely.
Yeah.
But his willingness to own his mistakes.
Solidified him as a leader.
Solidified his leadership. Earned respect.
100%. And it's a principle that translates
seamlessly
from the battlefield to the boardroom.
To the boardroom.
To the boardroom. Carnegie tells a story about a lumber inspector.
Okay.
Who's being way too strict with his measurements, costing the company money, straining relationships.
Yeah.
Instead of confronting him head on, taking a gentler approach.
How so?
They listen to his concerns, validate his expertise, and gently guide him towards a more reasonable solution.
They save the company money.
Okay.
And salvage the relationship.
Imagine if they had just said, "You're wrong, lighten up."
Disaster.
A total disaster. So how do we even set the stage for these, more harmonious interactions?
Principle number 4.
Okay.
Begin in a friendly way.
Okay.
This brings to mind this incredible story.
Okay.
Of John D. Rockefeller Jr.
Oh, wow.
Facing this hostile crowd of striking miners.
Right. You think he'd come in strong, lay down the law.
Right.
Yeah.
He surprises everyone.
What does he do?
Instead of mirroring that anger, he opens by emphasizing shared interests.
Oh, interesting.
Thanking them for their time.
Wow.
Acknowledging their right to voice their concerns. Talk about a masterclass.
It's like that Lincoln quote. A drop of honey catches more flies than a gallon of gall.
100%.
Yeah, it's so powerful. Starting with that friendly, respectful tone.
Even in challenging situations.
Even in challenging situations can work wonders.
Yeah.
But how do we, keep that momentum going?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Carnegie suggests getting the other person saying yes early and often.
Okay, interesting.
It's about momentum.
Yeah.
Creating that collaborative atmosphere.
Right. Because once someone has said no,
oh, yeah,
their pride kicks in.
Pride, ego.
Makes it hard to change their mind.
Way harder.
Right.
But if you start with those points of agreement, even small ones, it can make all the difference.
Interesting. I like that.
Yeah. Carnegie illustrates this with a bank teller who's dealing with this hesitant depositor.
Oh, right. I remember that.
Right.
Yeah.
And by asking him a series of agreeable questions...
It's almost like a gentle wave guiding him to shore.
Yes.
Right.
The teller just eases his anxiety and saves the transaction.
That reminds me of the Socratic method.
Oh, 100%.
Asking those leading questions that nudge someone toward a conclusion without them feeling pressured.
It's a powerful technique.
It is.
Even in everyday conversation.
Yeah, for sure.
And speaking of powerful techniques,
okay,
let's talk about the subtle art of letting the other person do the talking.
Now, this one seems counterintuitive.
I know, right?
Yeah.
But Carnegie swears by it. He even tells this funny story about a salesman who loses his voice right before this big presentation.
Oh, wow.
Right. Forced to let the client do most of the talking.
Yeah.
He ends up
landing the biggest contract of his career.
Exactly.
Because the client felt heard.
Appreciated, right?
Appreciated. It's like that saying, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
100%. By listening attentively, asking thoughtful questions, resisting that urge to dominate the conversation.
We create space for connection.
Yes.
And build trust.
La Rochefoucauld said, if you want enemies, excel your friends. But if you want friends, let your friends excel you.
It's about letting others' brilliance shine.
Exactly. Shine the spotlight on others.
Yeah. And who doesn't love a little spotlight?
Right. But sometimes we need to see things from a different perspective.
Okay.
That's where Carnegie's principle of empathy comes in.
Okay.
Seeing the world through the other person's eyes.
Right.
He uses this great example from his own life, dealing with campers, building illegal fires in the park.
Okay.
Initially, he took this hardline approach, laying down the law, threatening fines.
Right.
It just made the campers defensive.
Didn't solve the problem.
Didn't solve the problem at all.
Oh, okay.
He had to shift his perspective.
So what did he do?
He ditched the authoritarian act.
Okay.
Struck up a friendly conversation.
Okay.
Asked about their day, what they were cooking for dinner.
So he found common ground.
Common ground. Appeal to their sense of responsibility.
Yeah.
He was able to guide them towards safer practices.
Without resorting to threats.
Without resorting to threats.
It's about speaking to their hearts.
Yes.
Not just their minds.
100%.
Right.
Sometimes a little empathy is way more persuasive than any logical argument.
And Carnegie drives this home with a story about his own experience dealing with criticism.
Oh, tell me.
Remember when he made that mistake on his radio show about the location of Louisa May Alcott's house?
Oh, yeah. The telegram fiasco.
He receives this barrage of angry messages.
Understandably.
Right.
Yeah.
But instead of getting defensive, Carnegie chooses the high road.
How so?
He acknowledges their passion for their local history.
Okay.
Validates their right to be upset.
Talk about turning a negative into a positive.
It's amazing.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a brilliant example of how empathy can just diffuse a tense situation.
100%.
By putting ourselves in the other person's shoes, we can respond with understanding, compassion.
Right.
Even when we feel attacked, misunderstood.
It's not about suppressing our own feelings.
Man.
It's about choosing a response that fosters connection.
Yes.
Instead of conflict.
Exactly.
And this ties into Carnegie's next principle, respecting differences.
Important.
Show respect for the other person's opinion.
Yeah.
Tells this really charming story
about
a young piano student with beautifully manicured long nails.
Oh, yeah.
Now, Mrs. Norris, the piano teacher, knew those nails would be a problem.
Of course.
Right.
For playing the piano.
Exactly. But instead of demanding she cut them, she found a way to make the student want to trim those nails.
Oh. How'd she do that?
She complimented her beautiful hands.
Smart.
Acknowledged the sacrifice it would take.
Right.
And then emphasized how much it would improve her playing.
So it became this shared goal.
Exactly.
Not a power struggle.
It's amazing. And that's the magic, right, of respecting someone's opinions, even when you don't agree with them.
Yeah, it opens up a space for collaboration instead of confrontation.
Yeah. It's about guiding, not dictating.
Subtly.
Subtly, yeah. Now, principle number 9 really resonated with me. Praise every improvement.
Okay.
Carnegie tells this really touching story about this young, blind boy in the hospital, feeling lost, alone. And then the stranger approaches him, and instead of just expressing pity, the stranger compliments the boy on his talented ears.
Oh, wow. And that little boy grew up to be
Stevie Wonder.
Oh, my gosh. I get chills.
I know. It just goes to show the lasting impact a few words of encouragement can have, especially when we're feeling vulnerable.
Absolutely. We never outgrow that.
No.
And Carnegie argues that this applies to everyone.
Right.
He uses examples like Enrico Caruso, Charles Dickens, even H.G. Wells.
Wow.
All these giants, right?
Yeah.
Who benefited from encouragement?
It's true.
Yeah.
So true. Now, principle number 10 takes this idea of positive reinforcement a step further.
Okay.
Give a fine reputation to live up to.
I like it.
He shares a story about a charwoman who went above and beyond after receiving a compliment on her work ethic.
It's like that compliment unlocked something in her.
I know.
Right.
Totally.
It's not about manipulation.
Right.
It's about tapping into this human desire to, meet expectations.
Totally. When we believe in someone, it inspires them to rise to the occasion.
100%.
Right. And that can lead to some amazing transformations.
Absolutely.
Okay, principle number 11 is all about framing things positively.
Okay.
Make faults seem easy to correct.
Okay.
Carnegie uses a really relatable example of his friend learning to dance.
Oh, yeah.
With a critical teacher, he felt hopeless.
Of course. Who needs that?
I know, and he quit.
Right.
But then he finds a teacher who...
Yeah, what'd she do?
She highlighted his potential.
Good.
Praised his efforts, and then made the steps seem manageable. It's all about framing.
Right. Suddenly, learning is fun again, and he makes amazing progress.
Of course. Our words have power, right?
Yeah. We all need that cheerleader in our corner.
100%.
Which leads us to Carnegie's final principle.
Okay, let's hear it.
And it's a powerful one.
Okay.
Make them want to do it.
Okay.
He tells this interesting story about the Dale Carnegie course ad in the New York Sun.
Okay.
And it was during the Great Depression.
Right.
So not exactly a time for frivolous spending.
Right.
Yet people flocked to this course.
Wow.
And the ad itself was surprisingly simple.
Really?
Yeah. No fancy promises or quick fixes.
Interesting.
Just a genuine offer to learn and grow.
Huh.
And that's what resonated with people.
It makes sense. That desire for self-improvement. Yes, exactly. So by tapping into that desire, by framing the action in a way that appeals to their motivations, we make it far more likely they'll embrace it. It's true. And ultimately, I think that's what all of Carnegie's principles are about. What's that? Understanding human nature.
Yeah.
And then using that understanding to build better relationships and achieve goals together.
It's not about manipulating people.
No.
It's about inspiring them.
Yes. Recognizing that deep down, we all kind of crave those same things.
We do. We want to feel valued.
To be heard.
To make a difference.
Yes. And when we approach our interactions with that in mind...
amazing things can happen.
Amazing things can happen.
Powerful, powerful stuff.
Yeah.
And I think more relevant today than ever.
I agree.
So as you go about your day, your week, your life, even think about which of these principles resonates with you most strongly.
Ooh, I like that.
How can you put it into practice, like starting today?
It might feel like a small shift.
Right.
But the ripple effects can be extraordinary.
100%.
That's the beauty of how to win friends and influence people.
It's a guide.
It's a blueprint for a more fulfilling life, one connection at a time.
Love it.